Hello, everybody. This is R.K. Mullins, author of Time for a Serial Killer, A Lifetime of Murder. And coming in February the 14th, Confessions Before Death, Satan's Revenge. Help me celebrate my mother's birthday. Buy my books. Today, on Author to Author, which I am the host. I know, a bad one, but, somebody's got to do it, right? We have Dawn Doig. She has authored 15 children picture books. Very impressive. She's great at doing this. I mean, and she's a teacher. Can't ask for better than that, right? So I tell you what, instead of me talking all of that burn time, let's turn it over to Miss Dawn. Hey, Dawn, tell us about yourself and your books.
Okay, thank you very much for having me, Keith. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yes, my name is Dawn Doig, and currently I am a teacher. I teach English as an additional language to students who are learning English as their second, third, fourth, or fifth language. I'm currently in Cameroon, Africa, at an international school in Yaoundé. Prior to this, I was an audiologist for 23 years. Also an amazing career. It took me to Northern Canada, way up to Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories, and also to Kuwait, England, and Saudi Arabia. My husband is an educator, so he followed me around the world for 23 years. And when I made the career switch 7 years ago, I now follow him. So that first took us to Mongolia and now to Cameroon. And who knows where the wind will blow us to next.
Tell you what, he followed you for 20 years. You need to do the same for at least 30.
I love it.
Well, now tell us about some of your books that you got out there for the kids.
I have quite a variety. They touch on different topics, from childhood hearing loss to dysgraphia, worry and anxiety, bullying. Some of them are just plain fun and silly. I do like to play with language. Dr. Seuss was definitely an inspiration, so some of my books are written completely in rhyme. I also make up my own words, Donnerisms, so some of those are found in some of the books. So some of them have just been plain fun to read. Others have more of a serious message behind them. But I certainly hope that children enjoy them all. I've recently branched out into the bilingual field. So my two newest books are completely bilingual in English, French, or English, Spanish. And several others have now been translated into French. Some have come out and some are still in the works. But yeah, I thought, because I teach children who speak other languages, that it would be wonderful to have some of these books accessible to them as well. So French is one of the main languages because I'm in a French-speaking country, so that was the inspiration there.
That I was kind of wondering about, because me personally, I don't know what all languages they speak over on the continent of Africa.
Well, Cameroon itself is primarily, it's a bilingual French-English, but there are many other African languages as well. So my colleagues, there's a variety of local African languages that they speak. They don't all necessarily have the same language from their village. So it's really interesting. And for some after-school activities, one of the teachers was actually teaching her village more local language to the kids. So that was really cool.
That's nice. I was wondering if maybe you thought about having them translated over into some of the local languages for them to enjoy there, or do a lot of the locals there read? Is a question.
That's a good question. There are a lot of schools here. Do all skilled children attend school? I can't answer that.
Right.
I know the schools are very busy. Classes are 50 to 60 students in one room, whereas our school, we the cutoff is 20, and then we have to have another classroom. So yeah, there's So the students tend to go to school in shifts in order to be able to accommodate all of them.
Right. Well, it's a
You
good,
can imagine.
it's a great thing they've got good teachers like you over there. And,
Thank you.
those who, are now following their husbands around instead of being followed by their husbands. Sorry, I'm gonna pick on that one all that burn day long.
I don't think he suffered too much traveling around.
Serious. Yeah, I think
We
you probably.
certainly had the opportunity to see a lot of this great, big, beautiful world that we live in, experience different cultures, travel, because we've lived in several different countries. We know that living in a country is very different from just traveling there as a tourist. You have to live the daily life of everyone else, right? You have to shop in the same places, and it's a totally different experience. And I think our children were very blessed to have had some of those opportunities as well, which we both did not have growing up.
Right.
My first time out of Canada was a humanitarian trip to Vietnam as an audiologist in 1997. So
Right.
I was already grown up by the time I left Canada for the first time. So.
Well, I've never been outside the continental USA.
Wow.
But I've been to every single state in the lower 48, and my feet's touched the ground on all major cities and a lot of unmajor cities in the U.S. That's all my.
Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
What got you started? I mean, besides teaching, what got you started in writing children's picture books?
I did actually write a couple when my children were very small, when they were 3 and 5. They were hand drawn with movable parts, which was a lot of fun. They really enjoyed looking at those, but they weren't officially published till much more recently, actually. The first book that was officially published was And So Ahmed Hears. And I wrote that while I was working as an audiologist in Kuwait. It's all in rhyme. So when I wrote it, I didn't envision it as a book per se. It could have been written on a poster to hang somewhere. Some families saw it hanging outside my office on the wall and were quite interested in it. And right. I think that's what actually sparked me to look at getting it made into a book. So I spoke with a few of my friends who were working for hearing aid companies back in Canada. Mm-hmm. And one of them was working for a large hearing aid company, and approached them with the idea, and they contacted me and found out more about it. So it was published in 2008 as a humanitarian project in Canada. It was free for families who had hearing impaired children. They could just contact the company and receive a free copy. So that was initially how it was offered. I think it was positive. It's about a little boy who is not hearing, obviously, but that's not said to you specifically. It's just through things that are happening to him that you realize that he cannot hear. And I remember a grade 12 student at our school reading it one day. She was in the library, and all of a sudden she got to a certain page in the book and she said, "Oh, wow, he can't hear." So because it was not spelled out for you, it was just through the things that were happening. She suddenly realized what was going on, and she was like, "Oh my goodness, wow." So it's actually been used by some of my colleagues when they're teaching units on sound and light, or when they're teaching units on celebrating diversity and differences. I wrote it to help to try and improve public awareness of childhood hearing loss, because it does affect children all over the world. It is not selective in who it affects, So children in every country of the world, there will be some that are born with hearing loss for whatever reason, whether it's genetic or, it's typically genetic, but it can be part of a syndrome. There are a number of causes, right? Oh, yeah. So that was the main reason that I looked at having it made into a book. And the illustrator did an amazing job. The company found the illustrator. I can show you the book, actually.
There you go.
She did a beautiful job. And when I was in Mongolia, it was translated into Mongolian.
Nice.
So that was the first book I had translated into another language. And it just happened to be Mongolian. because I was living in Mongolia at the time.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's a very special book to me. It was dedicated to a little girl I worked with in Kuwait. She was Indian and she was born deaf. So she really touched my heart in a very special way. Watching her transition from a deaf child who then learned sign language. I worked with her and her mother to teach them sign language. And the transformation almost overnight from this child who was having tantrums all the time, crying all the time, to a little person who could now communicate some of her needs. It was just fabulous to watch. And I carry her with me still. You know, it's a part of my experience that will always be very special to me.
I am absolutely certain that she is very grateful for you teaching her and her mother sign language and be able to.
They moved to the United Arab Emirates after Kuwait, and we were traveling. It was a kind of a stopover on the route back to Canada, and we hooked up with the family there, and I gave her a copy of the book, a signed copy of the book. She's done amazing. She ended up having a cochlear implant when she was 6 or 7 years old, attended mainstream schools. She did not attend a deaf school. She's grown now. She's gone off to university, and I'm very proud of her.
You are. Now, the one that you mentioned earlier, you didn't really mention it by title. You just mentioned it by subject. That kind of, kind of close to my heart. Bullying, because I mean, I was bullied when I was a kid. I mean, you wouldn't think that. You wouldn't think to look at me nowadays that that I might have been, but a lot of people were bullied. And that's a very soft subject, in my heart. I don't tolerate bullies, and I try to educate as much as I can about how ignorant they really are and how low their self-esteems are for trying to do
when people talk about bullying, it's often somebody outside your family. This bully was actually my brother, and ooh. I grew up with an older brother who was not very nice. It's called Go Away Sean because most days we couldn't wait for him to leave the house to go be with his friends and just get away from us. He was in a car accident 8 years ago and he had severe head injury. So he has not been able to speak since then.
I'm sorry.
I was trying to sell my books to buy a communication device for him.
Right.
But the book does not focus so much on that. It also, I used, again, I don't think this is a spoiler, but I used the metaphor of holy genes, holes in his genes, right, to represent the nasty part. And then the patches on the genes were those nice things that happened. And so I do have most of them are true to life. They did happen, not necessarily to the characters that I have them happening to in the book, but the events did happen in some form. And so those were those kind things that he did that were the patches.
Right.
And so I wrote the book partly to help me through the grieving because I miss my brother.
Right.
Sorry. And also to help my mom.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it.
But what I would like people to get from the book is, there are these people who do nasty things and we don't always understand why. But right, for most of them, there is a good side too. And we need to try and remember that good side and maybe even try to understand where some of it is coming from. And then the underlying message is the power of forgiveness and ultimately love, right? So.
And it's not always the case, but sometimes those who are doing the bullying are being bullied themselves at home.
That's right.
They're just transferring that onto other people because that's what they think is the right thing to do because that's how they're treated. But then again, I'm not a psychologist by any means. I ain't gonna try to, psychoanalyze somebody being a bully. They doing the wrong.
What you're saying, there is a very well-known expression: children learn what they live, right?
Right.
I can't say that was what was the situation here, but
some of them just downright mean.
Right. And this is the book.
Ah, there you go. I
It's
love it.
actually got a 5-star review from Reader's Favorite. um,
You
yeah.
show any book you want to. I mean, you can show all 15 if you can hold them all up.
Sadly, I don't have all 15 because 7 of them were published in 2020, and I have not left Cameroon in a year, and I have not been home to Canada since the summer of 2019. So I do not have copies of all of the books that have been published since, let me see here, March 2019. Nope, since July 2019, I do not have those.
Gotcha.
I do not have those in hand.
Well, I'm always looking to expand my writing skills and delve into different genres, as it were. And there's posts on Facebook about, hey, if you got a story or if you want to enter this contest to win $1,000, I don't think I'm going to win it, but what the heck, I give it a shot. It's about an owl. You had to write a story about an owl, and
Right.
I can't do anything to write about an owl except for a children's book. You're probably age 10 through 12 or something like that, right?
Right.
So I'm currently I'm not writing a book. I'm just writing a little short story about an
Good
owl.
for you.
And but I'm a firm believer that every author out there, no matter what genre they write in, even if they write under a pen name, expand their horizon by trying to write in different genres. You never know where that might lead you.
I have not personally branched out. I did write a novel when I was 13 years old. It's the only novel I have written. It is, I believe, still in storage in Canada. It's called The Miracle Chimp. And when I was young, I always had a lot of compassion and sympathy for people who had any kind of a challenge or disability.
Right.
So I entered a Christmas story contest several years in a row, and the main character always, was blind or was hearing impaired, and ultimately there was a miracle that happened.
Right.
So The Miracle Chimp incorporates that, and it also incorporates my love of monkeys and primates.
Okay.
I'm a collector. I have oodles of monkey paraphernalia. So you name it, I probably have one of them. So that was where that came from. But I do remember my sister reading it. She was 2 years younger than me, and she cried when she read it. So I was like, oh, it obviously had an effect. So that did touch me, that my writing actually had that effect on somebody.
Oh, nice. But I believe, I've got to believe that the children's books that you write, the picture books, they have to be touching a lot of lives that you don't have, that you may not realize. I mean, especially the ones like the bullying one and the one that you're talking about, the blind or the deaf child. Those have to hit home to quite a few people out there, I would imagine.
Well, Keith, I'm not sure how many they've actually affected, but I'm hoping through opportunities like this that I can spread the word more about them, and people will take the initiative to maybe look them up and see what they're about, and maybe check them out, right? I know Petra Pencil is about dysgraphia and writing challenges.
Okay.
And our grade 3 students asked me to read this to them last year. So that was really exciting. I've donated the ones that I do have copies of here. I've donated those to the school library. So nice. I still remember one day one of the students ran up to me and said, oh, Miss Dawn, you're a real live author. And that was just like, oh my goodness, And then the librarian actually told me that her daughter, from looking at some of my books, decided to sit down and write her own book. So if it can have that kind of effect, I did read What a Bath. I don't have that in front of me. I read it to grade 2 last year, and then the whole class sat down and wrote their own books. So they were asking me questions about, do some of the kids thought that you had to draw all the pictures first and then you wrote the story to go with the pictures. Others felt that you had to have the words first and then you drew the pictures. So it was a really interesting exchange of ideas.
Right.
Even where does the title come from? How do you decide what to call it? So it was a lot of fun. And to know that they all then sat down and produced their own books afterwards, that's pretty neat.
I think that's very neat, and I think it's very exciting. You're doing a great job as a teacher, and and an educator that's also an author. Come on now, you can't beat that with a stick, people. You got to look up Miss Dawn here, Dawn Doig, and look up especially if you got children, get her children's books. I guarantee you, they're good books. She knows what she's talking about in these books, and she's got them geared just to the right age groups. Now, I don't read children's books because it would seem kind of weird, but I have looked up some of her books and looked her up and looked at her reviews. Like I always do, every author I have on there, I at least look at the reviews, and she's got some really good reviews out there. She does know what she's doing, and she does this because she loves to write and she loves to entertain children. Come on now, you can't beat that. Now I guarantee you. I don't even try to entertain kids. Come on now, I got grandkids.
Oh my, then they need some of my books.
There you go. Well, especially I think the oldest one might be a bit old for that, but my youngest daughter is getting ready to give birth to to a grandson.
Oh, wow, nice, congratulations.
Yeah.
I do have one book you might find interesting for the older one. It's Hairpiece. And I did have one reviewer say that every young girl should own this book. That really blew me away, really. That book was written here in Cameroon. It was inspired by the women and girls of Cameroon, who are absolutely beautiful. And
Right.
I was not aware when we moved here that many of the women and girls wore wigs or hair extensions. That was quite an eye-opener for me.
Right.
And I will not tell you the ending of this book, but it is about a young girl, Johannita, who wants to look beautiful. And she feels that having the right hair is going to make her beautiful. So she tries on all these different kinds of wigs. And every day that she goes to school with a different wig, she finds her twin who looks just like her, has the same hairstyle. And I won't tell you the end. But this book, I've actually had readers tell me they would love to see it as an animated short film.
Oh, nice.
I am trying to find out how to do that. I have not discovered the right context yet for that, but I thought that was pretty interesting to have people say that. They've also said that of Petra Pencil, that they would love to see Petra Pencil as an animated short film.
Have you done a Google search for literary agents of children books?
Yes.
And
I'm looking specifically for animation. I'm not sure how you approach somebody about that, and who the best contact would be for that.
Even though you're going to looking for an animator, for someone to animate this and put it out there for people to watch, it would still be under film and TV. So you'd look for a literary agent who deals with film, deals with children's books.
I didn't think about that angle. You're right.
That's probably the way I would go, and then learn. Take a look and also do a Google search on query letters, so that you can, write.
Because I have been asking on Twitter, I have been asking on LinkedIn. I've posted posts about that. I've done that on a few of the Facebook pages. Does anybody know who I could contact about this?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And unfortunately, some authors are very, very forthcoming with information that can help. And unfortunately, some of them not so much. Because there's some of them out there that are downright bitter because they ain't been selected by anybody yet. Hey, you publish it yourself, you're still published, people. Come on now. You're still on. No matter if the top 5 grab you or not.
Well, of course, one thing for sure is it is a very competitive field, and honestly, I have read some amazing books. I I did over 75 picture book reviews last summer.
Oh, nice.
And some of the books that I read were just fabulous, you know.
Right.
And there's been a lot of discussion about awards and things like that. I did not realize before I started looking into them the cost that is involved.
Oh, yeah.
So when I see some of these books that don't have awards that I feel 100% they deserve one, it's probably just because the author couldn't afford or didn't want to pay a hefty fee to enter it in a contest.
That is true. Some contests are very expensive to enter. You know, some of them,
Yeah.
you know, are free. I mean, I go for the free ones if I can find one. But you know, it just depends. I mean, from one magazine or one company to another, it's different each and every time. And you know, they're trying to, you know, recoup the cost of publishing whatever it is they're trying to publish.
Sure, and to pay the award, you know, however big that award is as well, for sure. To be honest, I didn't start doing this to become a millionaire.
Oh, no.
You know, children's books. My dream is just to see them in the hands of more children. I would just love to be walking through a mall or through a park somewhere and, you know, see one of my books in a little one's hands, or them sitting on their lap on mom or dad's lap, having it read to them. I've had some pictures sent to me where the books are being read to the children, and that is just so fabulous when you see those.
Imagine how, you know, the high, and I will say the emotional high that's got to put you on when you see something like that.
Oh, definitely. You know, because that's the whole point. That's the whole reason you're doing it, right? So, yeah.
It's the same thing, but you know, but yours is a lot more special because you got little minds that you're helping to mold, and that's an ungodly gift. And you know, everybody out there should, you know, join me in saying thank you for being an educator, and you're taking that on yourself to try to, you know, educate and teach the young people of the world. You know, not just, you know, the country you're from, or Cameroon or Mongolia, all of them. You know, because teachers don't do this because they get rich, people. They usually broke.
You know, and I think because I've been blessed with careers that have taken me to different countries, you know, so many of my books are inspired by real life children, you know, special children I've had the chance to work with, things that I've experienced through the traveling and living in other places. You know, there's just so many experiences around you that can be an inspiration for a story, you know, and you just never know when that's going to twig. Several of my books, the ideas have come to me in dreams, and then I've just gotten up the next day and written them out. So yeah, you just never know when that inspiration is going to hit. And people have asked me what's something that I would recommend, and it's write it down. When the idea comes, jot it down. You may not have the full story at the time, but when you see what you've written over time, that may actually evolve into something really wonderful that you can share. So,
and you know, that brings us to my final question for you, and you just pretty much answered it. But if you're talking to somebody who's wanting to be a writer, who's wanting to, you know, get published, what is the one absolute thing you're going to tell them to help inspire them to become an author?
That's a tough one. Again, kind of what I just said is, if you have some ideas that you think might potentially make a good story, then write them down. And I mean, I have actually gotten up in the middle of the night before just to type something on my phone in the notes, you know, rather than trying to find a pen and paper or something. Just my phone is by the bed. So just open up the notes and jot down that idea really quickly, because you never know. In the morning when you wake up, you might be saying, oh, what was that? It was a really good idea. So,
my second book is coming out in February. Confessions Before Death, Satan's Revenge. Remember, Valentine's Day, my mom's birthday, buy it. But it was written halfway on my cell phone.
Wow.
I
There
didn't
you
even,
go.
I wrote half on my cell phone. And it took, when I finally got an iPad, it took me a good bit to get used to the iPad. I was so used to the cell phone.
Wow. And the cell phone, the letters are so small.
Exactly,
So-
my fingers. I got big ones, y'all. I ain't no small boy, I can tell you that much. Well, Dawn, it was great having you on. And people, y'all mark this one, all right? I only plugged one book this time, and it was Confessions Before Death. I only plugged it at the end. She did all the talking. Go figure. An author that likes to talk.
And an introverted one at that.
An introverted one is that. Nah, I don't think she's introverted at all. I think she's a very nice lady. And Dawn, I want to thank you for writing children's books, because every one of the young minds out there that either have these read to them or they are able to read themselves, you're shaping those minds and you're teaching them things that maybe they might not learn elsewhere. And for that, I have to say thank you. And I think every parent in the world should say thank you for that, because I believe, educating our young is the biggest honor and the biggest goal that any of us should ever have. And be an educator, a professional educator, they ain't doing it for the money, people. I guarantee you that. Well, Miss Dawn, I'd like to say thank you for being on my show. You've been a great guest. People, Dawn Doig, she has 15 children's books out there, picture books. Come on, parents, get in there, look them up. You might find one you like for your little one, Hey, this has been R.K. Mullins, author of Time for a Serial Killer and Confessions Before Death, coming out in February of 14th, Valentine's Day, on my mother's birthday. I did this purposely to remember my mother and honor her memory. So help me, buy one. If you don't buy one, hey, just say hi. That'll do it. Well, Dawn, like I said before, it was a great time having you on the show. And I'll have you on here anytime you want to, all right? Because people with, it's as nice as you are and smiling and having a good time, that's what this show's about, is to help promote you authors and me as well as myself, people. Come on now. I ain't in this for the fun of it. Yeah, I am. Maybe a little bit. But it has been a pleasure. I will have this converted here in a little bit, and I'll send you the links to it, all right?
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
You're very welcome. People, Dawn Doig, author of 15 children's books. Please look her up. Support all these authors I have on my show, including this one, me. I need support too. Hey, it's kind of iffy. But remember, hey, this is R.K. Mullins, host of Author to Author. Y'all have a good day now. You hear?